Hey, Chamber members, Alan Waters here, your Director of Marketing and Communications at the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce and your Words of Wisdom podcast. Today, I'm joined by
Kasey Blouse with Blouse House Creative.
Welcome back to the podcast. You've now officially been here enough times that I don't have a question to open this other than like what we're going to talk about today. So much of this podcast is about success or failure and those pieces. The major topic that we kind of discussed for today is success fatigue and that feeling of constantly chasing the like, I have to do this, I have to get this, here's the thing I need to be successful, that you just burn yourself out. And as a small business owner, that's hard. Like there's no other way to say it. So for you, how have those highs and those plateaus been over the time you've owned the business?
So I think it's crazy how you like don't even realize it until you're like out of it, right? That that's even happening to you, that you're like, because you get so excited and it's such like a high when you're like, oh, you feel like you're doing really good and everything's like working the right way, and then when it's not, you're like, oh. So I mean, they come in different wavelengths, you know. I feel like at the beginning I was really small and just working out of my house and things, and so they seemed like they were quicker almost, because it's like you're not doing as much. And now it's like that I have a brick and mortar and I'm doing the signs and all the things. Now they seem like a lot more intense, I feel like. And I think about when I was back there, I was like, oh my, like that doesn't even feel like like my business. You know what I mean? Like it feels so different. And so, and I felt so good then. Like, and so it's crazy to see it now, which it's exciting. And, you know, you kind of question yourself as to why do I keep doing this to myself? Like, why do I keep, like, I could be okay right here, but like, why do I keep jumping to that next? Yeah. But it's like, it's thrilling. You know, I mean, it's like I think that's the entrepreneurial spirit though, like wanting to do more, like who else could I help or who could I do this better for, especially when it comes to creative stuff. Like that's like a whole other world that I don't know how it works with like not creative stuff, because I don't do that, but it might be the same, but it's just like, oh man, that could be so much cooler. That could be, you know, like, I don't know, just you could do it differently. So
it makes me, someone I recently talked to, they're in the middle of job searching and we were talking about different things. He was like, oh yeah, this job, it pays really, really well for this company. And I was like, man, I could never do that because I have zero interest whatsoever. I think about everything I do. I put so much of my heart and passion into things. And he was like, oh, I want the absolute opposite. He said, I want a job I can clock in, clock out, because I want my passions to be at home. And I don't think there's wrong one way or the other, but I think that's part of that creative piece of it just scratches an itch that is really hard to describe. And you're right. It is so much. I think it's the higher the risk, the higher reward piece. Because yeah, you know, it's nice to hit that plateau. It's nice to say, okay, things are steady. But if they're that steady, you know, have you really reached a place where that steady is going to continue forever?
Right. It's always changing.
Yeah. I mean, I feel that, like, I think about a decade ago, what might have felt steady then, would that steady still, would it still pay the bills today?
Probably not.
Yeah.
I think the biggest part of that, and not trying to, you know, lessen the like feeling like you've fallen or whatever. And I was talking to some other business owners about this here recently, is like making sure you take the calculated risk, like actually thinking about it. And I'm really bad about this. Like I get excited about something. I'm like, let's do it. Like I got to do it right away. I'm like that in my personal life, and it translates to business, unfortunately. But I have gotten a lot better in like, Kasey, you need to like think about this for at least 5 minutes before you make a decision. Like logically think about it. And you know, that's where people like my husband are good at calming me down. Like, let's, you know, maybe wait on that for like, I don't know, 6 months to a year. But I get really excited. One of talking to some business friends about it is some ideas to not do that is to have like an ideas list, right? And I have started that. I had one at my shop and I just felt like, I'm a paper writer, but it's like I don't get those ideas when I'm sitting down at my computer. It's like I get those
Right.
ideas randomly. So starting like a Google Doc list, and that's what I've started to like put the ideas there. You know they're there. You're not going to forget them. But then you can go back to them when you're like, okay, I'm ready to do something else, and make those informed decisions and not just, I'm ready. Let's go.
I like it being Google Docs. I do that with notes on my phone, and then I've forgotten that I've made a note, and so I never go back to it until one day I'm like going through deleting things, and I'm like, oh, that's, yeah. But I'm the same way. Like I get really excited about something, and then immediately I go from that ideation into the working out all of the problems. It's like, okay, well, this would go, oh, but this would fix it. And then that. So for me, it's sitting down, and I've got one friend that I know I can count on no matter the situation. I will text and go, hey, here's what I'm thinking. What do you think? I don't give any thought, any insight into it. Just they have always been my one friend that challenges everything I ever do. You need friends that support you first and foremost. But sometimes you need the challenging friend that goes, well, this, that,
Right.
the world
really
could
a good
explode.
idea,
Yeah.
right?
And I think it is thinking through the hard parts of, I almost think about it from like a nonprofit organization standpoint. And so many for-profit businesses have this too, but what is your strategic direction? What are those strategic pillars? Does this new idea actually fit in with those pillars? Does it serve your mission? Or is it outside of the scope of what that mission is? Because if it is, now's not the right time for it. Right. I guess it's weird. I've never thought about that until I just started talking, which is how we get in these situations to begin with.
I was like, this is a perfect example.
But like so many of the nonprofit things, I feel like in my for-profit work, you think about it the same way. I mean, yeah, we all have the business plan. We need to re-up that pretty often. But if you think about it fully as, I have no money, there's no money coming in, how do I make it work? Yeah. So what was the calculated risk of you were doing things from your house to, all right, I need to get a storefront? Because I think for so many small business owners, they do start from their house, their basement, their garage. Making that leap is probably the hardest one you will ever make. When for you, how did you know it was the right time?
I don't feel like I was fully aware of what I was getting into, to be fair. Like I don't, like you think that you're like, oh yeah, I could do that. And then you realize, oh, there's all these extra things. Really, it was like I had someone that I relied on for signage and stuff when I had designs and things that needed to do that. They were getting out of it, and so ended up just taking over kind of thing. And so I was like kind of figuring out like, well, what am I going to do? And then encouragement from other people was like, hey, well, why don't you just do it? Like, just try it. And I'm like, all right. So I don't know. I was like, yeah, I could do that. And so I went for it. And then it's just been a, tornado of figuring it out, but that's okay.
I love that the advice here is, I don't know, I was drowning and it was fine. Oof.
No, I think there has to be some fear in it. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm better under pressure. So I just work well that way, and I know that about myself too. So I was like, all right, we're just gonna jump and we'll see where it goes. If it fails in a couple of years, then that's fine. I was really okay with that.
But I still think there is that part of years. You said if in a couple of years, because I do think there's a difference in thinking in that kind of scope versus a few months at a time. I have seen restaurants that have, after 6 months, said, I'm only paying my bills. This isn't worth it. And in my mind, I'm like, you're paying your bills at 6 months? That's awesome. Like, that's breaking even is so great to be at that point. When you made the jump, what was that first, was the high point? Hey, I'm here. I'm in the place. What was the first thing that made you go, oh, bleep, like, what's happening?
Probably just like learning having employees. Because that's always, it's just different. And I mean, I have no complaints, you know what I mean? Like really, just how it works and how you're gonna manage that and putting the time into doing that. Because right at first, I was just like, oh yeah, like I needed someone, so I hired somebody, and then it was like you kind of figure it out. And luckily, my first employee was very good with, like, she was good at working with me with that. So it was like a blessing. But that's like a hard, you know, like, so I feel like that was the first time I was like, oh, this is a lot more than I like imagined in my head. So.
Well, and so we were talking about this yesterday with employees, and some of the struggle being they're not always going and just doing things. That's not the first piece that they think of. And the more I thought about that after we talked yesterday, I kind of realized part of why I am that person, why I am someone who is just like, oh, well, there's nothing here, I'm going to do it, is because of the small business ownership. And as that owner, you know, if I don't do this, I will not pay my bills. I will not have food to go. Versus when you have the other side, there's not that risk that's inherent with it. So
I think that just thinking about things like that, like, oh, I need to, you know, tell them specifically what I want, because that's the only way you're going to accomplish your mission.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I have lots of thoughts in my head, but do I always communicate them as well as I should?
Right.
Probably not. But so that's, you know, and that's just something you have to work on as you go. And it's different with every person you hire. Like everybody takes things a different way. Some people are better if you write them a list. Some people are better if you know, send them an email with like everything for the week. Yeah, it just depends on, you kind of have to figure that out as you
Yeah, I think that's kind of and kudos to you, because I think that is a sign of good leadership, in that, to me, if you're going to be a good leader, it's not about, all right, how do these people adjust to what I need? It's how do I adjust and meet them on their level? Because ultimately, they, especially as a small business owner, I'm not saying in other organizations, other businesses, it's not the same, but as a small business owner, the work they're doing is so valuable to what you have, because it advances things that you were never able to do on your own. Or if you did it on your own, was one of 35 things that you were juggling. So you have to be thankful for the fact that, one, they're there, because they can choose to be anywhere else. In a world where, and let me say, I'm not downplaying how hard it is to work in a fast food place, but in a world where fast food, you can make $15, $17 an hour, they have to have a reason to want to come work with you. Again, I remember working in Dairy Queen. I remember working in fast food. It sucks. It is so hard. But how have you kind of started to navigate those pieces for yourself? Have you gone from your ideal list to, okay, here's my list of things that I need you to work on. Here's how I'm working on my delegation. Here's how I'm managing my expectations, because this is the expectation I have for myself doing it versus now you're doing it.
So I think my biggest thing has always been like, I would never ask somebody to do something that I haven't already done or wouldn't like step in and do. I'm a very like hands-on boss. I feel like I love to design, but I can't sit behind my computer all day. Like, well, I have, but I don't like it. So like, just making sure like I'm thinking about that as I do things, which most of the time it's probably already something I've tried before I like, I'm like, hey, or I'll just be like, hey, try this. If it doesn't go well, cool. But one of the things I've utilized is using my project manager to have like we have all client jobs and, you know, whatever, and all that's set up, but having like a shops list of like, you know, things that can be worked on, like random projects that could be worked on for the shop or for like, you know, the future or whatever, and then like a daily or weekly like checklist of things. So just having it all written down there so that it's communicated to everybody and all the things, and then you don't have to, you know, stress about it. If I go in and do it, I can check off that I did it, or, you know, if employee does it, you know. So kind of just trying to work together, and, you know, some weeks that looks different and some weeks it doesn't. And, you know, you just never know. But so just trying to, I get communication, I feel like, is the biggest thing. And any kind of relationship,
Yeah.
but especially with things like that is just trying to, and I kind of address things as they come up, you know, like I feel like that's what you have to do for.
And I think sometimes it is doing the hard piece of this isn't what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
There's still positives here, and I want you to know these positives, but here are the negative pieces. Because, like, if you're just looking at something, I think about how particular I get with some of the things I do, and there's no one else that's ever going to be able to get that particular, because if they were me,
Right.
or it's like, hey, get out of my head.
Right.
But even if it comes back and it's like, okay, this is not what I wanted at all, I still need to be able to say, you've done good work here.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not what I'm looking for today.
Right.
Which is tough, because sometimes, especially in the moment, you're going to get it and your brain is going to go, no, it's just like a toddler.
Yeah.
Just like angry and for no good reason. But the communication, 100%.
And I think one of the other things I've tried, and I think, like I said, this comes back to the depending on who you have in your shop and that kind of thing, is like having weekly meetings where you talk about like how the week went. Like I've done that some. It just depends on who it is and how, if that's going to work. And I mean, also like timing in your business and where you are. Because if you're like trying to grow and do all the things, like is a weekly meeting necessary or not? Sometimes I feel like it probably is if you're growing. But if you're just on that plateau, you know, and you're comfortable there for a little while, then it might be like, oh, we'll just address it as we get, you know. But I think things like that are some of the things I've kind of learned over the years.
Well, and I think
tried over the years.
having the knowledge to be able to kind of self-regulate that, because Wendy Glass talked about in a presentation one time how many times things happen just because they've become habit. She talked about a organization she worked with that every week they had a standing 3-hour meeting. And when it got down to the crux of it and they started asking the question of why are we having this meeting, it was, oh, we've always had this meeting. There was not a real reason to continue having it anymore. It just had become part of that. And I like having a weekly meeting just of like the check-in. Another thing I've done in my past that I really enjoyed was called Scrum, which was every single morning, right at the start of the day, you had 90 seconds to say, this is what I'm working on, this is what I've done, this is what I need help, and this is, you know, if you needed more, you would say, I want to sidebar with you afterwards, and you talk briefly. But that everyone around the room had that 90 seconds, and that way at least you kind of had that guiding light of, okay, here's what's happening. You weren't left out. I think it's just finding what works for you and your business and your people, and it's gonna be different.
Right.
I mean, even communication styles. I am probably an odd rarity in millennials that I really don't mind picking up the phone and having a conversation.
I am with you. I'm a phone person all the way.
It's so much faster for me to be like, hey, here's what I'm looking for, blah, 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 and then go. But I also have friends, and I don't blame them at all. They're like, I would rather be run over by a steamroller than pick up that phone and have that conversation. I get it. And for that,
I just don't want to type it all out. Like,
I'm
tired. My fingers are tired. Like, I don't want to do it.
By the time I've typed it,
person.
I'm one of those too. Like, I get so frustrated in some of the things I've done in the past where it's like, I get an email that says, hey, can you email so-and-so? Because my brain goes, you could have emailed so-and-so by the time you emailed me to email them. That's just finding the different things.
Right.
All right. Any other pieces of advice you have specifically for keeping yourself from that success fatigue?
I think one of the things I've tried to, or I guess two things I've really tried to implement recently is what I've started, and I'm trying, I guess, right now that I'm hoping is going to work, and it seems to be going well, is making goals for a shorter period of time. So you have something to focus on, because making them for so long is like, you know, like, so that's what I'm trying at the moment. It seems to be helping me because I can focus on them. Like, I know I have, I can do deadlines. So, and then I've started like writing my time down, like everything. And it sucks to do.
Yeah.
But it is helpful to know like how much time you're spending on different things.
Right.
And it's very insightful, and I won't do it forever because it's exhausting. But I think to like kind of track it and tracking. So that's kind of like getting into tracking things more and that kind of stuff I think is invaluable as a business owner. And I haven't done a ton of that. So it's like a whole new world to me. But I kind of love it.
I think
and
data
hate it at the same time.
It's the data and statistics that is 100%. I mean, I'm not going to say it's nobody's favorite thing. Some people live for that.
Yeah.
But if you do something and you can't go back and say, this is what led to the success or this is what led to the failure, ultimately you've learned nothing. I pointed this out at an Eggs and Issues, I think last year. There was, when I was going through and looking at some of the chamber numbers, in June of 2023, out of nowhere, we had 10,000 more website visitors than we had in any other month. There was nothing I could go back and look at June of 2023 that I was like, this is what led to it. So it has to get chalked up as an anomaly. I can't learn anything from it. So that, if you got to catalog your time to see where you're spending it, I mean, that's what you got to do.
Yeah. And it's not, like I said, it's not fun. Especially like, I feel like the creative type, it is not like in my DNA to do things. Like I like tedious projects, but not that. Like it feels very like, but going back and looking at it after, because I've been doing it for a couple of weeks now, is like very helpful. Like it's so helpful. And I've even had my employee kind of do it, not to the extent of what I'm doing, but like just like, more just like calculating it so I can figure out, okay, and then she will be able to see like improvement. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like from beginning to end of how long it takes you to do stuff and getting better and all that stuff.
And I'm sure, I mean, for you, it might be writing down. I'm sure there are apps and other things that can help you with that. I mean, it comes down to one, what you want to do, where you want to put your resources. To me, it was almost like when we had Cora, those first few weeks, we had an app where we were tracking, and Rachel still uses it to track how long she's breastfeeding on either side, but it was like every single diaper, the consistency of the diaper, the she screamed at this point. I mean, everything was going into it in case we needed it. We're only 8 weeks in, and I have quit because I'm like, oh God, no.
I did it with my first one. The second one, I was like, there's no. I loved it when I was doing it. Now I'm like with 2, there's no.
Right.
But yeah, I truly understand that because I did it too.
Yep. And some people have been like, I just wrote it down in a journal, and I'm like, cool. I need the pretty colors of the app to be like, oh, I did something.
I need to hit a button.
Yeah. Click. Yeah. It's so many, it's different things that satisfy you. It is. It's just that. All right. We're going to take a quick break. And when we get back, we're going to kind of walk through a life of Kasey Blouse. Walk through a day in the life of Kasey Blouse. Walk through your whole life. That's what's happening next.
Please.
Starting from the small details to the big ideas that you want to communicate, Blouse House Creative will pour their hearts into helping you connect with your audience. Their priority is to cultivate your message in a way that is authentic to who you are. They want to take your knowledge and ideas and craft them into effective products for you. Started in August 2018 as Blouse House Printing and Design, Blouse House Creative has been serving their customers from their current location since February of 2022. It is locally and female owned right here in the New River Valley. They are ready to serve you with their printers, computers, laminators, plotters, cutters, and binding machines for any of your graphic design or printing needs. Their passion is being creative while still being practical and efficient. For more information, go to blousehouse.org. That's blousehouse.org. Back to the episode.
All right, we're back. Real quick before we dive in, I want to thank Grand Home Furnishings for providing us with the rug that's in this room, these chairs. Not only do they make the room a little bit more homely, really help with the sound, so I appreciate that a lot. All right, so walking through your life, day in the life, I think so much about The Office, where this is totally a tangent, and I'm so sorry. Where when James Spader's character comes in and he asks Erin, he's like, "Tell me what you did today." And she's like, "Well, I woke up." And he's like, "Don't tell me you woke up. Obviously, you did that." Like, but as a business owner, what is that typical day in the life, what goes into it, especially in your industry, like getting to some of those specifics. How does it kind of work for you?
So the best part I'll say is that it changes every day. So we'll kind of go through some, I guess,
a day in all the lives. Yeah.
all the lives.
The many faces of Kasey Blouse.
That's what it feels like sometimes. It depends on what projects you have. And they all come in waves. So it's always like 2 weeks of this, 2 weeks of this. But so I guess for me, honestly, usually I get to work and eat, because if I don't eat, then nothing else is going to get done. And we don't get to do that at home with little kids. So, but anyway, so just like taking that time to like refocus. I usually like, check the emails, do all the things, that kind of stuff. I feel like I try to like I said, so since it's like different every day, I usually try to have a schedule in my head of what I know needs to get done. But really, I do much better if I get all my stuff on the computer done, like in the beginning, like, okay, I need to design this, this, and this, mostly because it's like, oh, well, then I have to print it. But sometimes it's like, oh, I got to go start a print before. And so it's just like thinking through that, so that, you got to print it, it's got to dry before you can laminate it or lay it or anything like that. And so, or it has to have time to print, to physically print. So kind of doing that. I do a little bit of, like I said, the printing stuff in between, doing designs or, maybe accounting or whatever, all those businessy things that you have to do as a business owner, which suck. So that kind of thing. I probably check emails too many times a day. I really have been trying to like cut back on that. That's like a whole other
I was going to ask that, because you said all the computer stuff, and I know some people, and kudos to you, that like they check their email once a day, they send all their responses, and then they come back to it the next day. And
yeah, I can't.
I can't. I'm not wired that way.
No, me either. I check it like probably way too many times in a day.
The amount of times I've gotten emails that are like, oh, thanks for responding so quickly. And I'm like, oh, you don't need to thank me. If I didn't do this, you weren't getting responded to.
You were never going to hear from me. I go through phases where I like try to be better, but like, I'm only going to check it twice today. And I still just go back. I don't know how to not do that. But I think that comes back to the communication thing, right? Like that's just part of how I'm wired. So
for me, it's fully ADHD. Like if I didn't have my notifications on, I've heard people be like, well, I turned the push notifications off, so I have to open the app for the emails to pop up. If I did that, I would never open the email app. And when I did, it'd be like, I have 500 emails. I'm not going to.
Yeah. I also can't stand to have like unopened emails. So like I have to like open it, and it's like if I can't respond then, or I have to look something up, I have to put it in my project manager so I know to do it, because I'll forget. Like so I have to have that,
the little red bubble is just it's a nightmare.
I hate having unread emails. It drives me crazy, and my email's very unorganized at the moment. So I'm talking about this and like cringing because I know what it looks like, but it is what
I will give you the worst example so that like you will feel better. I have a friend that has an email address on his phone that he can't actually access anymore, but is still constantly getting emails to, but he can't get rid of it. So his phone reads like, I think the last time we talked and I saw it, it was 23,000 email notifications, and I was like, I'd have to just throw the whole thing away.
Yep.
I couldn't.
Yep. Couldn't do it. Yeah, that would drive me crazy. I have a couple in mind, I know, currently, but I'm just like, So yeah, and I have, there's multiple email addresses. It's like multiple email addresses, multiple phones. Again, where I started in my basement, people have my cell phone, and it's hard to get away from that once you start that. But I do have a business phone now that I encourage people to call. But, so it's like managing both of them.
Now I'm wondering which number I have. All right, I've derailed us enough. So, all right, the emails checking periodically, but then beyond that, those next pieces.
So just, like the production side, and that's a lot of what, employee does. But like I said, I don't like to be out of it. Or if like we're trying something new, or I don't know, just like some things you have to have more than one person to do. Like if you're laying a 4x8 board, like you can't do
Right.
that by yourself.
Yeah.
Like you have to have two people. So, and sometimes that looks like, might do it at the beginning of the day if we have to, if we're going on an install. I mean, that's why it changes so much. It's so
Right.
hard. But, so, just kind of managing getting the prints laminated, then, you've got to cut stuff out. You've got to do all the same thing with paper printing, cut things out, and then all the finishing stuff. If you have to lay it, if you have to put it on a paper pad, like if you're padding the, a little flip notebook or something, or coiling it. So it's kind of like a process of doing those. Some days, honestly, I'll go through and just be like, okay, I'm just going to do this project and do it all the way through, and then I'll start another one. Other days, I like work on 5 projects at a time. I don't really have a preference. Honestly, I'm probably better at the 5 projects at a time,
Right.
because I've gotten so used to it. Like, oh, well, there's this. And then the sublimation printer was going off. One time I had all 3 printers running at once, and I was like, this is insane. Like, I don't even know what's going on.
You're
right
hitting
now.
the piece of me, and I feel like anybody that has any form of ADHD is that my project's due tomorrow. I'm about to do the best work in the world tonight.
Yes.
Like, if my project is in 4 weeks, cool.
Yeah.
I'll see you in 3 weeks and 5 days. Like, I don't know what that is in
I don't
our
know,
brains.
But I can do that too.
If you're a psychologist and would like to come analyze me on the show for free, I'd appreciate it. But there is so much, I feel like, though, about business ownership that is, when you're balancing that many hats, you're kind of all in one category at a time.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's days or weeks before you're going to be able to get back in that specific category.
Yeah.
And when you're bouncing so often, even on a day-to-day basis, like, that gets tough, because I feel like then it's easier for things to slip through the cracks, because there really is at any time. There's so much to do.
Yep. And then you have, we now have an install. So you always think like, oh, well, but it always takes longer than you think.
Right.
I mean, to be honest, like that's just the thing. And the other thing is like, I just lost my train of thought, but like people, now that I have an office, people coming in and like anything I'm doing, not even just design, like it just taking time to get back into it then is like, not that it's a bad thing. Like, I love when people come see me. I'm not complaining by any means, because I like to talk to people, but it's just like your process, and like having to figure that out of like, okay, now I have to get back into this, and like but it might be something, I need to deal with this right now. And then it's then you're like, an hour later, you're like,
Right.
now I'm going back to this project that I started at the beginning of the day.
I'm definitely that person,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty sure Chase Brinson has told me to get out of his store before, because
Yeah.
he's like, I've got work to do, leave.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you're right. But it is, I mean, and that happens to us here so often for good reason, that someone's coming to town, someone's never heard of what Chamber does, someone's trying to find something, and we stop, or there's a ribbon cutting and we've got to be out of the office for any given amount of time. The going back into can be really difficult. I mean, and sometimes it's, I started this and oh wow, I really don't want to finish it, and I have to.
Yeah.
It's going up tomorrow, you know, like, so your days seem hectic, crazy, busy, all the fun stuff.
Yeah. I get asked like, oh, how's your day? Like, I mean, what part do you want to know about?
Right.
Like which morning, midday, or afternoon? Because they were all like a different storm. You know what I
But
mean?
it seems like, though, at least the consistency of you come in, you have that food you eat. Is there anything you have that is like your end of day routine? Like,
yeah, usually like, doing the invoices, making a plan for the next day. That doesn't always happen, but that's always the goal, is to like take 30 minutes to an hour to like update the project manager from the stuff that I didn't update throughout the day, which I've been trying to do more of. But that's been like a huge thing for me, just to like kind of, get out of your like, because I get very distracted when like on projects. Like if I'm working on a website or something, I'm like, I'm in it. Like there's no, if you interrupt me, I'm like, squirrel.
right.
What was I doing? And I have to like literally write a note down as to where I was so that I can go back into it. But, just those like mundane tasks, like at the end of the day. So you're like feel like you're ready for the next day. And, you know, sometimes as business owners, we take work home, which I have been trying not to do, but it's really hard sometimes when you you have this expectation of yourself and you're like, well, I didn't get it done, so I got to do it at home. And sometimes I plan to do it at home and take all the things and then I don't actually do it. But so when it's like that, it's like, okay, I made a plan, but like, depending on what I get done tonight, that's all going to change what I'm going to do tomorrow.
I've had so many times where I'm like, I'm not taking work home with me. And then I go to sleep and I have a dream about what I'm thinking about at work. And I wake up and I'm like, brain, what did I tell you? Like, that's not fair.
All the time.
I feel like so much of this is universal across industries too. And it's just a part about being a small business owner. And while I think throughout this episode, we've talked a lot about like the things that struggle, we've also hit some of the things that we've tried, maybe that haven't worked for either of us, but may work for others. So I ask, you know, as our other small business owners listening to this episode, if you've got things you've tried, if you've got some advice that you want to share, please send it in, comment it on, you know, the link for this episode, put it in the chat, as the kids say.
And I really feel like the only way you can learn what works for you is trying it. Like, and I have said that about marketing too. Like, you have to try things to know if it's going to work. And it might work at a certain time and then not work late. And so it's like always changing, which is like the hard part and the fun part, right? Like, I don't like to get bored. So like, it's like, I might complain about it changing all the time, but I secretly love it.
Well, it's kind of like when people say, oh, well, what's the answer to the algorithm? There's a reason that we don't have that, and it's because we're the product.
Right.
Like, I've thought about that so often, because every time we do something that's on social media or marketing here at the Chamber, that's one of the questions that's asked. And I get it. We all want to know that. We want to know that answer. We want to know the secret to success.
Right.
But that's where you have to, and I know it's a cynical way to look at it, but anything that's free is free for a reason. And ultimately, I think, and maybe I need to put on a tinfoil hat in saying this, when you get to social media, all of the people who are using it on a day-to-day basis are absolutely the audience, but the clientele are the business owners that are paying to advertise on those things. We're the reason they changed the algorithm, because if we learn it and stick to it, we're not opening that app as often. We're not actually going and having to do as many things. So that's part of anything you're going to do. It's going to keep changing. It's going to keep shifting. That's the only way you...
But that, like I said, that's what makes it fun too. Like, you know, it's nice to do. And maybe that's just the creative side of me wanting to, like, you know. But I've always been like that. Like, change has never bothered me. Not saying I always like it, you know, like, obviously. But, you know, it's never really bothered me. Like,
Well, I think going back to, like, what we talked about at the beginning, it's the high risk, high reward piece. There's no real such thing as anything in business, any job ever, that is no risk. I think about Jim Carrey, who talks about his dad. I can't remember. I think his dad was an accountant, thought it was a really safe career, and then ended up in a situation where he was laid off and lost everything. And he was doing it the safe way and lost everything. So if you can do it the safe way and lose everything, you can do it. You can lose anything anytime. So sometimes it is taking that leap of faith, making sure it's the calculated leap of faith. Sometimes it is the fear that keeps us going. So, well, thank you so much for being here. Tell everybody where they can find Blouse House Creative and all the fun stuff.
So we are online at blousehouse.org, and we are downtown Christiansburg at 203.5 Depot Street Northwest, and obviously Christiansburg. So
I love any address that's half. Like, there's something about it that makes me feel like it's a mystical location.
It's also very annoying sometimes, but it's fine. We've learned to live with it.
Look, you're not 3/4, so I mean,
that's fair.
Now I'm about to go look up and see if 3/4 addresses
might prefer
exist.
it. It's a weird thing. Like, Amazon doesn't recognize it.
Oh, I could see. Yeah. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. We will look forward to talking to you again. And a few weeks. So awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you, members, for listening. Please make sure you like, download, subscribe, all the fun things so you don't miss any of the episodes when they come out. And you also don't miss any of the other content like Lunch and Learns, small business workshops, Business 101, all of those fun things. In the meantime, go out, invest, connect, engage, and prosper.